Hey guys, what's up? This is Connor here. Hope you're having an amazing day. In today's video, you're going to get something pretty special, right? You're actually going to see a live sales call recording of me selling, live action, and I'm going to teach you something. You're going to take one takeaway, right, that you're going to be able to learn and implement, right? Now, the reason I don't make these videos often, right, I have plenty of sales calls that we can look at, plenty of sales calls that I can break down. Typically, I reserve this type of training for my inside pay community, right? But I hope to have this video do two things, right? Well, one, hopefully you learn something. And then two, I guess this really helps validate what I'm talking about when it comes to my skill of sales, right? Really, out there in the space, I really don't see too many people that are actually as skilled as they claim to be, right? And especially because I've seen the back end of their trainings, as I've spoken beforehand in previous videos. I've had very frustrated and upset students, being burned by the training programs, teaching them how to become a high-ticket closer, selling them the dream, and then never giving them what they actually need, right? The actual tangible skills, because they haven't been there and done that, right? Because they can't, right? In the sales training program that we have, so the RSA, I have at least 6 or 7 sales call recordings at the moment, full length, right? You see from start to finish, right? How it all happens, right? We see from hello to credit card details, right? And so my students can kind of study that quite extensively, right? Those sales call recordings have little bits of gold in each of them, right? But in this particular sales call recording, the reason I wanted to show you this is, again, basically show you what happens when a prospect doesn't give you the answer that you want, right? And redirecting the conversation away that's not salesy, right? That doesn't show the prospect that they're in a process, right? And that gets them back on track, gets them to look at the cost of inaction, which is what we talk about, right? A big part of my sales process that I teach my guys is, a phase they have inside the process. It's more towards the end of the call. It's more like a crescendo. Is called cost of inaction, right? Consequence questions, right? What are the potential ramifications of if the prospect doesn't solve their solution, that they don't change their situation, right? That's what we're going to be kind of reviewing here, okay? So with that said, hopefully this is going to give you some insight. I did have a call with a gentleman this week who actually requested this. So if you enjoyed this, comment below, right? If you got some key insights, if you want me to post more of these, I have plenty of them because surprise, surprise, I actually sell and I actually can sell, and I have no problem demonstrating my capability of doing that as much as you guys need, because I know that I'm good at what I do, right? I know that I'm better than most people in the industry. So I'm happy showcasing my skills doing that. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into the call recording now. I apologize. The audio is going to be a bit shit considering I haven't figured out how to correctly record the audio directly from the computer to this. So you're going to hear it through the microphone. So it's going to sound a little bit scratchy, but that's okay. As long as you can hear it, as long as you're getting the main takeaways, that's all that matters. All right. So the context here is the prospect. We're coming towards the end of the call here, right, in total. And if you're wondering why the call is so long for an hour and 7 minutes, usually my calls typically go for about 35 minutes to about 45 minutes. But in this case, this particular prospect had quite a few objections and, of course, didn't have the funding anyway, right? But that doesn't matter, right? If they don't have the funding, there's not really much that you can do about that. You can help them find, ways to become resourceful and find the funding they need to get to where they want to be, right? But you can't, hit someone over the head with a mindset bat and say, buy my thing, when they don't even have the money in the first place. Doesn't make much sense, okay? So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to break apart, each section here, and explain what I'm doing.
No, I don't feel see what you're saying. Can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
What would actually happen if you just continue down the same path, you're working the same role, the same job, right? Nothing really changes, income doesn't change, right? And I guess you kind of just stuck in this small breathing space for the next 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, or even 2 years from now. Like, what even really happens then?
Okay, so the reason why we ask that question in the sales process is to get the prospect to actually consider the ramifications of not changing the situation. Why? Is because we want them to create internal urgency, right? Not external urgency, right? Very, very common problem, and often quite a mismatch when it comes to old sales tactics and what, are commonly touted as, take action now, right? This program is, you're typically worth $15,000, but because you're special, it's $6,000, right? It doesn't work with today's buyers usually and today's consumers, right? They know that that's a sales tactic. They know that that's tacky, right? And so it always comes back to the quote that I like to tell my students is that I got this quote from a mentor of mine, Jeremy, is a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. It's from Dale Carnegie, right? So the more the prospect convince themselves that they need to take action, right, that they need to change the situation, the more they will. The more that I tell them that doesn't really change anything. What I say is trash, what they say is gospel, right? So that's the purpose of asking that question, and particularly why it's at the end, because it's trying to get peak emotional state to when, someone feels, like they're comfortable and they want to change the situation. Again, selling and persuading to get the person to internally persuade themselves, not me, telling them they need to do anything, right? That's the whole premise of what I teach here.
Well, that's not going to happen because I know something has to change. Listen, it's what I'm doing now is doable. I can actually switch companies if I wanted to, and then make more money because it's doable. But there's there's an app I'd like to develop. There's other things. I have other interests that I'd like to be able to bigger ideas. I'd like to touch on that. If I don't do those things, I think I'm going to be pretty disappointed with myself. So that's basically what I'm at.
So the problem with this answer is the prospect in this video particularly, when I asked him that question, knee-jerk response, right? He looked up, he starts flailing his arms around. He's giving a knee-jerk response, a knee-jerk answer, right? Now the reason why is because most people don't like to address the cost of an action. They don't like to address, right, the potential, ramifications if they don't do anything, right? Because nobody likes to look at that, right? It's not favorable, it's not fun, right? He's not consciously doing this, right? He's unconsciously doing this, right? And so what we need to do is we now need to grab him by the shoulders, pull him around, put him in front of the mirror and show him what's going to happen if he doesn't change, right? The reason that is not a good answer is because he said, oh, well, that's not going to happen. Well, it will, right? If he doesn't change his situation, right? He hasn't got the results he's been looking for over the past couple months to a couple years, right? So I can't tell him that. He needs to tell himself that, right? So I need to turn this back on him and show again, like, what are the potential ramifications if he doesn't do anything about this, right? But I need to do it in the right way so it's not salesy and it doesn't seem like it's in a process, like I'm trying to get something out of him. I need to make it seem and sound natural, right? So with that said, let's see what I do.
Okay, and so I guess something has to happen, but I think at the end of the day, man, I think it's really important to look at the duality of things, right? I guess we understand like what we can get if we can get to where we want to go, but what happens if we don't? Because I think at the end of the day, if you're putting Usain Bolt in a race right now, fastest man in the world, he's running towards women, fame, personal success. Like he's super stoked to run, and he's breaking records doing that. He's the fastest man on the planet, right? But if we were to set a pack of wolves behind him or a jaguar, I can imagine he breaks some more records pretty quickly, right? He's running from something, right? And I think at the end of the day, I think it's important to know truly, like, if we look at the other side of the coin, like, what actually truly would happen if you stay in the same situation, nothing changes? Like, what are you running from?
Good question.
Okay. So if we're really analyzing that and you see the completely change in, physiognomy, when you know you got the answer from your prospect, right? It's it's that heavy sigh because he's actually potentially considering the ramifications if he doesn't change his situation, right? That's what he's doing, right? He's giving me the real answer, right? If you notice the difference between body language between now and before, the difference is he's taking a heavy sigh, right? Because it's not fun to look at, right? And he's looked up, right? Usually when people are thinking, they look up, right? And so he's actually considering what happens, right? This is the key difference. Now, we don't even need to hear what he's going to say, right? Let me play this for the next couple of seconds.
I don't want to be, I'll be honest with you, I don't want to be in the field anymore. That field.
Okay. So that's pretty much all we need to hear, right? We don't need to go any further, but you can clearly see again the clear repositioning of the direction of the conversation to where I want it to be strategically, right? But I did it in a way that was non-salesy, right? That flew under the radar, right? And yeah, again, got him to actually consider the potential ramifications, because if you don't get that, there's no urgency for them to do something now. This is when you're going to hear not the right time, I want to think about it, right? It's just not the best fit right now. Whatever it might be, I'm going to go look and do a bunch of other random things, like you mentioned before. He actually gave me the right answer, right? The answer that I wanted, right? And then actually you can move the needle forward and move the conversation forward, right? So that's a very, very small snippet of, I guess, a live sales call that happened about a month ago. I shared this with the students a while ago, but I thought I would come and share it to the YouTube channel, because I think some people might find some value. But again, it just clearly demonstrate again the complete difference, right? As far as like being able to teach you foundational skills, but more to way advanced skills, right? The difference between me and all these other guys out there, they have no clue what they're talking about. And I know this again, and I talk about this all the time. You guys are probably sick of it, but they don't know what they're talking about. And it quite frankly frustrates me when, I'm seeing that they're charging $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, right, for training where they barely even know what they're talking about when it comes to sales at all, right? Just literally this morning, I invested $5,000, right, in learning not how to market my business better, not how to make more sales, right? Obviously, to promote my business to more people, right? I invested in skills to learn how to get better at networking, right? How to interview better, right? So I can teach and distill that to my students, right? Because I actually care, right? So with that said, guys, hopefully you got some valuable insights from the sales call recording. And yeah, hopefully that is a good, clear display of my sales ability and I guess what I'm about. If you did enjoy it though, feel free to comment below for my very, very small audience. If you did enjoy it, and I'm more than happy to post more sales call recordings and go more in depth about certain phases of the process and explain to you what I'm doing. Just figured that again, doing extensive sales training, it's not going to be a huge help to you because most people don't really implement these videos to a degree, or even are in a position to where they can implement sales training because they're entering into this industry. But nonetheless, if you found this valuable, feel free to comment below. I'm more than happy to post more of these. And yeah, hope you have an amazing week. Hopefully you got some valuable insights. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.